All right, brothers and sisters, welcome back to the Behavior Revolution. We're going through Ezekiel still, and today is going to be our last video of really intensely looking at the text. All right, we're going to get through about 5 chapters, and then we're going to be not doing that anymore because I think it's laborious enough. And Yahusha said to me, why are you taking people through all this laborious text when you've already proved what you want to prove? I've given you the information that you need to know, so start wrapping it up. So in our next video, we're going to start summarizing and finish it all up. But today we've got the text here, so let's go through it. In our last session, we talked about the temple and the state of the temple and the priests, priesthood, elders, women, everybody going through the idolatry and flaunting this in Yahuwah's face. And so Yahuwah is showing Ezekiel, this is why I'm going to destroy everything. Destroy Jerusalem and the temple, which he's about to do. And in these few chapters here today, we're going to see how Yahuwah really feels about his bride. And it might just change your attitude, your view of who Elohim is and how he feels about unrighteousness and sin. How he feels about his first wife and how he feels about us if we behave the same way. Let's take a look. Because if you didn't think that maybe Israel was divorced before these few chapters, you certainly will now. All right? Let's just dive straight into it. Ezekiel's just come off this big vision about the temple and all the angels and cherubim and the wheels, the chariot wheels and everything going. And then the esteem left the temple. Now he comes into this. And the word of Yahuwah came to me again, this time over 2 days, saying, Son of man, you are living among a rebellious house. Who can associate in our lives? You're living amongst rebellion in our culture, in our society, business, homes. You're living in a rebellious house. They have eyes, but they do not see, and ears, but they do not hear. They're spiritually blind and deaf, for they are a rebellious house. And remember, rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft and idolatry. So for those who are pointing at all the literal witchcraft and idolatry, witches, covens, seances, trees, steeples, statues, idols, for those who are pointing at things in the natural, what does he also say? Rebellion. Rebellion against Yahusha Elohim is just as worse as it is. It's the same thing as idolatry and witchcraft. Refusing to accept that Yahusha is Elohim, refusing to come into his vein of deliverance, is witchcraft and idolatry. I don't mind telling you. Because of this, Son of Man, act as if you are being sent into exile. Act it out. I want you to go pack your exile-to-go bag and go around from one place to another so that everyone can see you leaving. Leave in broad daylight with everyone watching and go off as if into exile. So it's kind of like it's like street theatre. He's got to act this out. Pretend you're going into exile. Pack your bags and get out of there. Maybe then they'll understand what's going on, even though they're a rebellious house. You'll take up your baggage while they watch, a bundle of the bare necessities of someone going into exile. And towards the evening, leave, just like a person going off into exile. As they watch, dig through the wall of the house and carry your bundle through it. In full sight of the people, put the bundle on your shoulder like a slave and walk out into the night. Cover your face so you won't have to look at what you'll never see again. And most of Israel, north and south, never saw Israel again. So cover your face and so you can't see what you'll never see again. For I have made you a sign. I have made you a sign of the coming destruction of Jerusalem to the people of Israel. Him acting this out is going to be a sign and an example, a witness of what's coming. Ezekiel says, So I did exactly as Yahuwah commanded me. I got my stuff together and brought it out in the street where everyone could see me, bundled it up the way someone being taken off into exile would. And then, as the sun went down, I made a hole in the wall of the house with my hands. As it grew dark, and as they watched, I left, throwing my bundle across my shoulders. The next morning Yahuwah spoke to me, saying, Son of man, when anyone in Israel, that rebellious house, asks you, what are you doing? What are you doing all this crazy stuff for? Tell them Yahuwah the Master says that this message especially concerns the prince in Jerusalem, Zedekiah. Zedekiah was the regent placed in Jerusalem at this time. But it also includes all of the people of Israel. Also, tell them I'm drawing a picture for you, and just as I'm doing, it will be done to all the people of Israel. They will go into exile as captives. So he's speaking specifically to Zedekiah, because at the when Nebuchadnezzar approaches for the last time, Zedekiah's eyes are poked out. He sees his sons murdered first in front of him, and then his eyes are poked out and he's dragged into Babylonian captivity. So it's a bit of a prophecy concerning him, because he's leading all the nation. He's the regent, he's the king, because the real king's in Babylonian captivity. So he's the regent king, and he's leading them all into exile, and he's encouraging them to go off to Egypt and get alliances with them. Not just the people going into captivity, but the prince will put his bundle on his shoulders in the dark and leave also. He'll dig through the wall of the house, covering his face so he won't have to look at the land he'll never see again. But I'll make sure he gets caught and is taken to Babylon. Blinded, he'll never see the land in which he'll die. I'll scatter to the four winds those who helped him escape, along with his troops, and many will die in battle. Then they'll realize that I am Yahuah when I scatter them among foreign countries. And all this happened. I'll permit a few of my remnant to escape. He's always got a few remnant. I'll permit a few of my remnant to escape the killing, starvation, and deadly sickness, so they can witness among the foreign countries all the disgusting obscenities they've been involved in, and they will know that I am Yahuah. But when you speak to an Israelite or a Jew today, do they witness of what disgusting obscenities their ancestors were involved in? No, they don't behave like a whore or tell you that their people were a whore, do they? They tell you that they're kings and queens and priests to the nations, and they tell you they're the chosen people. They tell you all sorts, give you all sorts of impressions. They're not a witness among the nations of the obscenities they were involved in, are they? Then the word of Yahuah came to me again, saying, Son of man, eat your meals, shaking in your boots, drink your water, trembling with fear. Tell the people of this land, everyone living in Jerusalem and Israel, that Yahuah says, you'll eat your meals, shaking in your boots, and drink your water in terror, because your land is going to be stripped bare as punishment for the brutality rampant in it. All the cities and villages will be emptied out and the fields destroyed. Then you'll know that I am Yahuah. Then the word of Yahuah came to me with another message, saying, Son of man, what is this saying the people keep repeating in the land of Israel? They're saying the days pass by and the prophecies never come true. Isn't that what they're saying today? When's he coming back? He said he's coming back, but he never comes back. Even Peter says that. They say he's never coming. When is this ever going to be? The days pass by and the prophecies never come true. Tell the people of Israel, Yahuah says, that this saying will not be quoted for long, for I'm going to make sure it is never said again in Israel. Time's up. Now every prophecy is coming true. Just like today, we're in the last few years of human history. Every prophecy is coming true. There won't be any more false visions or favourable predictions in Israel. I, Yahuah, will speak, and what I speak will be fulfilled without delay. You rebellious house, I will fulfill whatever I say during your lifetime. When he calls them a rebellious house, he's calling them idolatrous. He's calling them a whorebag. He's calling them as is the sin of witchcraft. He's treating them like the pagan nations of which they idolize so much. As he does today still. Yahusha will treat you just like he's going to treat the world, because that's what we're so obsessed with, the world and how they look and behave and everything about it. Then the word of Yahuah came to me again, saying, Son of man, the people of Israel are saying, the visions of the prophet are for the distant future. Oh, that's not for now. No, that'll happen way in the future. He speaks of events a long way off. Therefore tell the people of Israel that Yahuah most certainly says that nothing I've predicted will wait any longer. Whatever I speak will be fulfilled without delay. You rebellious house. You rebellious house is how he feels about his bride today. even those who know the name Yahusha, but don't know him, don't accept him as Elohim, don't know the righteousness that he insists on, demands, which only comes through a purging of fire. So this is all going to happen in these last days to his rebellious bride. This is how he talks to her. It's how he talks to me if I'm rebellious. Whatever I speak will be fulfilled without delay, you rebellious house, you rebellious bride. And the word of Yahuah came to me with 2 more messages about Jerusalem, saying, Son of man, preach against the false prophets of Israel, the ones making up predictions and visions out of their own imaginations. Tell them to listen to the real word of Yahuah. You rebellious bride with all your preachers, teachers, pastors, rabbis, false prophets of Israel, the ones making up predictions and visions. Listen to the real word. How have you treated the real word that's come through? The behavior revolution has been giving you real words for over a year now, full on. How have you been treating the word? Or are you too besotted and sucking up and commenting and, trying to, be bedazzled and beguiled by these false teachers? Pay attention here. This is how Yahusha feels today about those who do not know him or hear him, since they refuse him as Elohim and deny his new covenant order. This is how he feels about them. His character never changes. His righteousness, his hatred of sin, never changes. So the way he's talking to Israel here, take it to yourself. We talked about last episode taking it to ourselves regarding the temple. Well, now take it to yourself regarding Israel, because everything Israel was supposed to be, his new diverse bride today is. And the way he talks to her and what he expects of her is what he expects of us. All right? Righteousness, peace, truth. The Master Yahuah says, woe to those foolish prophets whose message is based on their own thoughts and have not had a vision. They have not had a vision. Your prophets, Israel, are like jackals. Your prophets are like jackals, scavenging through the ruins, looking for people to rip off, scouring through the scriptures, trying to find something original. But he's not talking to them, so they just have to make stuff up out of the thin air. Your prophets are like jackals scavenging through the ruins. You have put forth no effort to repair the broken down defences or to reinforce the wall around the city so that it will stand strong in the battle on the day Yahuah sends his judgment. Where's the true battle going on right now? The war for men and women's hearts. And what preparation are the bride being given by all these fools, blind guides, whitewashed tombs that are preaching the word illegally? They have no right to speak because they do not tell you about the spirit and fire baptism. They do not tell you that Yahusha is Elohim. They have no right to speak. They are not preparing you. Your defenses, your walls, there's holes in them. The spirit in your flesh is ruling and reigning, and demons are attacking all the time. And they are not helping you one bit. They are pointing you back to old shadows, old covenants, and they're just putting you through laboriousness. There's no true spiritual defense or power against evil today, and no deliverance or change of behavior, which is the only defense. Saying no, I'm not letting that in. No. Where are the teachers? Where are the preachers? Where are the leaders that are giving this to the bride? There is no one. Just as there wasn't here. It's exactly the same today. Their warnings and predictions are all false fantasies and comforting illusions. It's okay. Just be it. You've been in the water, haven't you? Just be it. Just be the bride. You've made it, mate. Just go back to the old Hebrew Abrahamic covenant. Get the tip cut off your wick, and you'll be right, mate. You'll be fine. It's all, just be comforted. It's all comforting illusions. They have no true heart or prayer for the people. no true heart or feeling for the people. They are there to lift themselves up. They utter only lies. They speak in the name of Elohim, claiming Yahuah declares this or Yahuah declares that. And now it's even more popular because they know Yahusha's name. Oh, they've made it. They know his name. Yahusha says this and Yahusha says that, when I haven't so much as breathed in their direction. And you can tell by the stupidity of their words, by the laboriousness of their endless studies, and Hebrewness, confusion. Elohim hasn't even so much as breathed in their direction. Yahuah Elohim does not speak through the teachers today. Then they actually expect their predictions to come true. Did you not perceive a false vision and speak sheer fantasized nonsense and divination when you proclaimed Yahuah declares this or Yahuah declares that? When I've done nothing of the kind. He's not even involved. Today, Yahusha is not even involved in all this nonsense, religious nonsense going on. He's judging his bride today. So I say, because you have spoken falsely and have seen empty visions, I am against you who prophesy out of your own imaginations. I will set my hand against those who see false visions and lying divinations. These self-proclaimed prophets, teachers, preachers, pastors, rabbis, they will not be a part of the council of the people or be listed among the people of Israel. There you go. They will be forbidden from entering the land of Israel. Then you will know that I am Yahuah, Master Yahuah. It is because these false prophets have lied to my people and led them off course, saying everything is peaceful and fine when nothing is peaceful or fine. Let's just get along. Let's just love each other. Let's just accept each other. Yeah, let's just this. They talk about peace, but there's no peace. There's no peace. They say everything's fine. It's not fine. Look at the state of the body. There is no order. There is no authority. There is no respect. There is no correct behavior. There's no change from something old into something new. When the people build a weak and wobbly wall, which is what the bride's walking around in, a weak, wobbly vessel. Her vessel, her living temple, is wobbly and weak. When they build a weak and wobbly wall, the false prophets are right behind them, coating it with plaster, spackling it up, putting band-aids on gaping wounds, trying to make everything look polished and nice, trying to make things nice. Teaching false fleshly deliverance outside of Yahusha's spiritual vein of deliverance. If you don't go in the vein, if you don't face that Yahusha is Elohim, you do not have deliverance. Your walls have gaping holes in them. And no amount of teaching, preaching, pastoring or rabbiing can plaster you up. Tell these plasterers that your wall is going to fall. Torrential rains will pour down upon your lies. Hail will pound your flimsy creations, and mighty winds and knock down your fabricated dreams. Not just temple vessels, but the mind, our mindsets, our moods, our feelings, what we've fabricated, our flimsy creations, our egos, our reputations, all these things that encapsulate what our vessel is. This is what's going on. And guess what? When your nicely plastered wall collapses, then the people will ask you, where's your plaster? Didn't it strengthen the wall? So I say that in my fury I will release a mighty wind to knock it down. In my anger I will produce hailstorms and torrential rains to destroy it. That's what he's doing amongst his bride today. It's called a spirit and fire baptism. He's knocking down all the walls. He's knocking down all the falsehood, lies, filth, everything that the spirit in our flesh has filled us with, and we've chosen to fill ourselves with our whole life. I will demolish the wall you covered with plaster, level it to the ground so that nothing's left but its foundation. When your wall falls, you will be destroyed. Then you will know that I am Yahuah. This is how my wrath will be satisfied against the wall and those who covered it with plaster, pretending to be delivered and leading people astray. See all the people, this false assembly, this false bride? Well, it's a real bride, but half of them are false. Half of them are darnell. Half of them are foolish virgins, pretending to be delivered and leading people astray, telling them they don't need to face that Yahusha is Elohim, No, just worship the Father and the Son and the Spirit. There's two. Which one's coming? Yahuwah's coming back to deliver us. Then we're all going to sit on the earth for 1,000 years and minister to the nations. What nations? It's all frackled up. False deliverance. Then I will say to you that there is nothing left of the wall or those who plastered it, those fraudulent seers of Israel who prophesied concerning Jerusalem, claiming everything was peaceful and fine. Everything was peaceful and fine when nothing is peaceful and fine. Ask someone going through the Spirit and fire baptism if everything is fine. Oh yes, it's fine. I'm delivered. I'm having a wonderful, joyous time. Ask them if it's peaceful or fine. No, it's a war zone inside yourself, throwing off things. Now, Son of Man, you must also preach against the women. Oh, here we go. Preach against the women of your people who prophesy out of their own imaginations. No, I couldn't imagine that. Preach against these false prophetesses and tell them the Master Yahuah says, woe to the women who sew magic charms on their wrists and make veils of various sizes for heads in order to hunt down souls with their magic. Do you actually think you can entrap my people for your own purposes without endangering your own lives? Ensnaring innocent people into fleshly rules and laws. Not just the women doing this, the men are doing it too, trying to ensnare innocent people in fleshly rules and laws. Rebellion to Yahusha Elohim is as the sin of witchcraft, is as the sin of magic charms, trying to allure people into your endless amount of teachings and books. You have profaned me among my people, trading precious people for a few scraps of barley and bread. In other words, you're trading carpetbaggers. Your lies have caused many to die who should not have, and many to live who should not have, all because they listened to your lies. A lot of lies and false teachings going on around today. Quoting, the endless quoting of Scripture. I, the Master Yahuah, have this to say regarding your enchantments. I oppose your magic charms you use to hunt precious people like birds. Hunting precious people, hunting for a following, for a gathering, for hits on your videos, for subscribers, hunting precious people like birds. I will strip them from your wrists and set the people free. Set the people free. I will tear off your veils and rescue my people from your power. All those carpetbaggers standing in the doorway, telling people about water, telling people about the 10 Commandments, teaching and preaching people back into the old covenant. I will rescue my people from your power. They will no longer fall prey to your hunt. Then you will know that I am Yahuah, because you have discouraged the innocent. You have discouraged the innocent and unsuspecting with your lies and deceptions. When I left them in peace, and because you have encouraged the wicked instead of showing them the error of their ways so they could live, you will no longer conjure up lying visions or practice divination in your delusion mongering. For I will deliver my people from your seductive powers. Then you will know that I am Yahuah. So that's how he feels about all the leaders amongst his bride today. And when I say bride, I'm only talking about people who use and are in the name Yahusha. Worship in the name Yahusha. Because once you come into his name, you are part of the bride. But half the bride is going to be foolish. Half the bride doesn't face who he is. Elohim won't go into the Spirit baptism, fire baptism. They're all just talking about water and 10 commands. Then some of the elders of Israel approached me and sat down. Then the word of Yahuah came to me again with a message for them, saying, Son of man, these men are devoted to breathless idols and have pursued things that cause them to stumble into sins. Breathless idols, things we chase after today that are dead. Lifestyles, practices, trips, vacations, entertainment, the constant entertainment of our flesh. Maybe it's food and drink. Maybe it's, anything out there. Sexual sins, you name it. Jumping out of planes, fish, it could be anything. You could be obsessed with your garden to the point where you're more obsessed with the creation than the creator. Anything that you take your mind off Yahusha for is idolatry. Breathless idols, yeah? Pursued things that have caused them to stumble into sin. Why should I even bother to listen to their prayers? They're worshipping idols. They're not listening to me. Why should I even listen to their prayers? Therefore tell them what Yahuah says to you. Any Israelite who devotes himself to breathless idols and pursues things that will cause him to stumble into sin and still has the audacity to consult a prophet will be answered by me personally as they come dragging along their mob of idols. All the idolatry, all the things that they've filled themselves with, their personality and reputation, they come dragging your bundle of filth into Yahusha's presence. He will speak to you personally about it. He will not make it through the fire. I am going to recapture the hearts of Israel, all of whom have deserted me for their idols. Be careful with that scripture. I'm going to recapture the hearts of Israel. He doesn't do it the way most people say he does it. There's a small remnant, remember, that he's going to do a new covenant order through. Therefore, tell the people of Israel that Yahuah commands you to repent, turn away from your breathless idols, and relinquish all of your shocking behavior, and turn back your faces from all your abominations. This is not the 𝗙𝗧𝗏 version, by the way, just in case it started to make too much sense to you. The 𝗙𝗧𝗏 does not read like this. I've tinkered. I've been tinkering. Today we must repent and enter Yahusha's reign to be delivered from the abomination spirit in our flesh and become a new creature. Got it? Today we must repent. As he's talking to Israel here, Yahusha is talking to his bride today to repent and enter his vein to be delivered from the abomination spirit in our flesh and become a new creature. To every last person from the house of Israel, including any of the resident aliens who live in Israel, that's foreigners, not UFO outer space aliens, it's foreigners who live in Israel, all who turn their backs on me and embrace idols, who install the wickedness that will ruin them at the center of their lives, and then have the gall to go to the prophet to ask me questions, I will step in and give the answer myself. I'll oppose those people to their faces, make an example of them, a warning lesson, and get rid of them. So you will know that I am Yahuah. Anyone who stands between you and Yahusha today, if you've got a genuine heart and you're searching, anyone who leads you up the beaten track and steers you off the true path, he is going to deal with, and you'll watch it happen. You'll watch the sickness, you'll watch the disease, you'll watch the death, you'll watch the plagues, you'll watch the catastrophes and calamities come upon all his people. But when you watch it happen, be careful, because a lot of them will then tell you they're like Job and they're suffering for their righteousness. They're so deluded they think they're like Job. They're being punished because they're leading people astray with all their rubbish and nonsense, taking people back to old, fulfilled, shadowed carcass covenants. That's what they're doing. And wondering why there's death and disease among you, because you're not discerning the body and the blood of Yahusha Elohim, are you? Who he is, who he truly is and what he wants. Also, if a prophet is deceived and tells these idolaters the lies they want to hear, I, Yahuah, get blamed for those lies. All the movements that are tickling each other's ears and gathering like unto like in these little pathetic little groups. Hundreds and thousands of groups now all over social media, preaching the same sort of things. He gets blamed for it. He won't get by with it. I'll grab him by the scruff of the neck and get him out of there. They'll be equally guilty, the prophet and the one who goes to the prophet, so that the house of Israel will never again wander off my paths and make themselves filthy in their rebellious evil. And after this they will be my people, and I will be their Elohim. Then the word of Yahuah came to me with a new message, saying, Son of man, when a country sins against me by living faithlessly, and I reach out and destroy its food supply by bringing on a famine, wiping out humans and animals alike, even if Noah or Daniel and Job were alive at the time, it wouldn't do the population any good. Their righteousness would only deliver their own lives. Or if I make wild animals go through the country so that everyone has to leave and the country becomes wilderness and no one dares enter it anymore because of the wild animals. Or if I bring war on that country and give the order, let the killing begin, leaving both people and animals dead. Or if I visit a deadly disease on that country, pouring out my lethal anger, killing both people and animals, and Noah, Daniel, and Job happen to be alive at that time, as sure as I am the living Elohim, not a son or daughter would be rescued. Only these three would be delivered because of their righteousness. So it wouldn't even matter if these amazing people who were not considered Hebrews would be amazing. Only these three people would be delivered. Yeah? He's using examples of people here. Ezekiel's using examples of people because they're not your traditional Hebrew Jewish royal line. He could have said Moses and Joshua and David and people like that, but he's using Noah and Daniel and Job because they were kind of outsiders too. This one's in exile. This one was before Hebrew came along. So was this one. So he's using examples to the people that they will understand. So it's about righteousness, isn't it? For this is what the Master Yahuah has to say. It will be far worse when I send out my 4 evil judgments upon Jerusalem. War, starvation, wild beasts and disease to kill the people and animals. People are trying to say that this is talking about the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. It's not. It's talking about here. Right here in Ezekiel when he destroys Jerusalem. It's right here. Now, still, a few surviving remnant will remain. There's always a surviving remnant. Just a little bit. Sons and daughters who will join you in exile. They will come to you, and once you see how they behave and what they do, you will be comforted regarding the awful disaster I have poured out upon Jerusalem. This is all localized. This is all in the historic timeline of Jerusalem being destroyed. It's not talking about the future. I'm pulling stuff out of it for us today, but this actual text is talking about right here and now. The comfort. For you will understand that every single judgment and catastrophe I have set against Jerusalem has been necessary, declares the Master Yahuah. And today, judgment starts in Yahusha's bride through a cauldronic baptism of fire, whereby each individual will know Yahusha's hand. They will fear his power, love his presence, and understand why each lethal scourge has been beaten upon them. Every single catastrophe has been necessary, declares the Master Yahuah. Okay? Take it to your own body, your own vessel, your own life. All right? Then the word of Yahuah came to me, saying, Son of man, how would you compare the wood of a vine with the branches of any tree you'd find in the forest? Is vine wood ever used to make anything? Is it used to make pegs to hang things from? I don't think so. At best, it's good for fuel. Look at it, a flimsy piece of vine thrown in the fire and then rescued. The ends burnt off and the middle charred. Now it is good. Now, is it good for anything? Hardly. When it was whole, it wasn't good for anything. Half burnt is no improvement. What's it good for? Therefore, thus said the Master Yahuah, as the grapevine among the trees of the forest which I have given to the fire for fuel, so I shall give up the inhabitants of Jerusalem. And I shall set my face against them. They shall go out from one fire, but another fire consumes them. They shall go out from one fire, yet another fire consumes them. Sounds like my days sometimes. For the stubborn idolaters and worshippers, their fleshly self, Yahusha brings fire after fire after fire upon them. They come out from one fire, and they step right into the next fire, because they will not behave themselves, will not give over and surrender. And you shall know that I am Yahuah when I set my face against them. And I shall make the land a wasteland because they committed trespasses, declares the Master Yahuah. Talking all about vines and branches. Branches are broken off Yahusha's natural vine, after the flesh, Jews, so that others may be grafted into his new covenant order. And there's scriptures regarding that. Branches are broken off that I may be grafted in. Not grafted into Israel, Yisrael. No. Grafted into Yahusha's new covenant order. The old branches were broken off because they were bastards. Not only bastards, but you're going to see this is a big eye-opener. We're going to finish with this chapter here. It is a long chapter, but we're going to finish with it. And if you didn't understand how Yahusha, but even back here, Yahuah feels about his first wife, Israel, you're going to understand after this. The language is quite colourful. The insults are quite colourful as to how he feels about his first wife, because he likens her to a wife in a marriage. The word of Yahuah came to me, saying, Son of man, confront Jerusalem with her outrageous crimes. saying, the message of Yahuah the Master to Jerusalem. You were born and bred among Canaanites. Your father was an Amorite and your mother a Hittite. That's just abstract figurative language referring to Abraham and Sarah, because the Hebrew nation was born in Abraham and Sarah. And they were from the pagan nations of Babylon before Yahuah called them. So you were born amongst the Canaanites, all right? On the day you were born, your umbilical cord wasn't even cut. You weren't bathed and cleaned up. You weren't rubbed with salt. You weren't wrapped in a baby blanket. No one gave a flying fig for you. No one did anything to care for you tenderly in these days or these ways. You were thrown out into a vacant lot and left there, dirty, unwashed, and abandoned newborn that nobody wanted. This was the state of his people when he found them. They were nothing to brag or boast about, nothing attractive about them. He didn't come along to some grand global metropolis, and make them his people. No, this is the state his people were in when he first found them. And then I came by. I saw you all miserable and bloody. Yes, I said to you, lying there helpless and filthy, I said, rise, live, grow up like a plant in the field. And you did. You grew up. We saw it happen through Genesis and Exodus. You grew up. You grew tall and matured as a woman, full-breasted with long black flowing hair. And as we know, Israel multiplied into millions of people, as many as the stars in the sky and sand on the seashore. But you were still naked and vulnerable, fragile and exposed. So I came by later and saw that you were ready for intimacy and a lover. Then I took care of you, dressed you and protected you. I promised you my love and entered the covenant of marriage with you. Remember on Sinai, after he delivered them and brought them out? I promised you my love and entered the covenant of marriage with you. I, Yahuah the Master, gave you my word, which he did on Sinai, and you became mine. I baptized you, gave them his words, washed them with the water of his word, also washed them through the Red Sea too. Gave you the word. I baptized you, washing off all that old blood, old idolatry, and anointed you with aromatic oils. I dressed you in a colourful gown and put sparkling leather sandals on your feet. I gave you linen blouses and a fashionable wardrobe of expensive clothing. I adorned you with jewellery. He kept them supernaturally sustained for 40 years. They did a bit of trading here and there, but their shoes didn't wear out. They always had food. He always looked after them and clothed them. I placed bracelets on your wrists, fitted you out with a necklace, emerald rings, sapphire earrings, diamond tiara. You were provided with everything precious and beautiful, with exquisite clothes and elegant food, garnished with honey and oil, especially when they got to the promised land through Joshua and Caleb and they came into their own fruition. Promised land was beautiful. You saw the size of the grapes, the massive grapes. Honey and oil, that's why they call it the land of milk and honey. You were absolutely stunning. You were my queen and you became world famous, didn't they? Particularly under Solomon, you became world famous. A legendary beauty brought to perfection by my adornments, declared of Yahuah the Master. Even the Queen of Sheba came running to see what Solomon was all about. That's the state of his bride. You see the process, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Judges, all those, he took them. When we get to Kings, they are at their pinnacle, they are at their peak. This is his bride. This is the royal nation. Everything was working and they were to be a shining light to the nations. He'd even built them the most precious city, $40 billion. But your beauty went to your head and you became a common whore, grabbing anyone coming down the street and taking him into your bed. You took your fine dresses and made tents of them, using them as brothels in which you practiced your lusts. This kind of thing should never happen, never. Take this to your own body, take this to your own vessel. We're not just looking at this from a historical point of view. This is the state of Yahusha's bride today, practicing her lusts. This kind of thing should never happen, never. What a sickly state you're in. And then you took all the fine jewelry I gave you, my gold and my silver, and made pornographic images with them for your brothels. You decorated your beds with fashionable silks and cottons and perfumed them with my aromatic oils. and incense. And then you set out all the wonderful foods I provided, the fresh breads and fruits with fine herbs and spices, which were my gifts to you, and you served them up as delicacies in your whorehouses. That's what happened, says Yahuah. And then you took your sons and your daughters, whom you had given birth to, as my children, and you killed them, sacrificing them to idols. Wasn't it bad enough that you had become a whore, and now you're a murderer too, killing my children and sacrificing them to idols? We know all that happened to the deity Moloch. They sacrificed their children. Not once during these years of outrageous obscenities and whorings did you remember your infancy, where you came from, when you were naked and exposed, a blood-smeared newborn. And then to top off all your evil acts, you built your gold star brothels in every town square. Woe to you! Screw you, says Yahuah the Master. Screw you, he says. All your brothels are in every town square. What do you see everywhere now? Crosses and stars of David, temples and churches and preachers, teachers, pastors, rabbis. Gold star brothels on every town square corner. Screw you, Yahuah says. Screw you. I'm out of here. I'm getting out of this whole system, he says. Even my own image. You made every major intersection a red light district with your brazen brothels and exposed your sluttish sex, spreading your legs for everyone who passed by. And then you went international with your whoring. You saw how well endowed the Egyptians were and sought them out in their sex orgies. And the more promiscuous you became, the angrier I got. Then finally I intervened, reduced your borders and turned you over to the desires of your enemies. Even the Philistine women, if you can believe it, they were shocked at your filthy, skanky behaviour. Even the Philistines are shocked at how filthy Israel's behaviour is. You went on to fornicate with the Assyrians. Your appetite was so insatiable, but you still weren't satisfied. You took on the Babylonians too, a country of businessmen, and still you weren't satisfied. What a sad and sorry, depraved maniac you are. Doing all this stuff, the champion of champions, the whore of whores. You built your global franchise of brothels at every street corner, opened up your whorehouses in every neighbourhood, but you were very different from regular whores. You were very different from regular whores because at least they got paid. You traded your passions for free. Wives who are unfaithful to their husbands accept gifts from their lovers, and men commonly pay for their whores, but not you. No, you pay for your lovers. You pay them. Yep, you pay them. You bribe men from all over to come to bed with you. You're just the opposite of the regular whores who get paid for sex. Instead, you pay men for their favours. You've even perverted whoredom. They can't even do whoring right. They don't even get paid for it. That's the definition of a prostitute, someone who gets paid for sex. Israel doesn't even get paid for it. You've even perverted the whoredom, because even the whores have some standards and a line of depravity they won't cross, but not you. Not you, Israel. Therefore, you whore, listen to the message from me, Yahuah your master, because you've been unrestrained in your promiscuity, stripping off for every lover, flaunting your sex, and because of your pornographic idols and all the slaughtered children you offer to them, because of all this, I'm going to get all your lovers together, all those you've used for your own kinky pleasure, the ones you loved and even the ones you loathed. I'll assemble them as a courtroom of spectators around you, and in broad daylight I'll strip you naked before them, and they'll see what you really look like. Then I'll sentence you to the punishment for an adulterous woman and a murderous woman. I'll give you a taste of my wrath. Kind of has Holocaust vibes here, doesn't it? See how she is, see how he feels about her. And the Israelites today cry persecution. The world hates them so much. It's written right here what he's going to do to them because of who they were and what was expected of them, and they have no excuse. I'll grab all your lovers. He's talking about all the nations that are going to hate her and despise her, hate the Jews. I'll gather all your lovers around you and turn you over to them. They'll tear down your garish brothels and sex shrines. Didn't they do that in the 1920s and 1930s? Didn't they rip down everything they owned? Sex shrines. They'll rip off your clothes, take your jewels, and leave you naked and exposed. Then they'll call for a mass meeting, and the mob will stone you and hack you, gaz you to pieces with their swords. They'll burn down your houses, a massive judgment with all the women watching. Then I'll have put a full stop to your whoring life. Then I'll have put a full stop to your whoring life. No more paying lovers to come to your bed. By then, my anger will be played out. My jealousy will subside, because you didn't remember what happened when you were young, but made me angry with all this behaviour. I'll make you pay for your waywardness. And everyone who likes to use the Proverbs will use this one. Like mother, like daughter. If you're following anything that Israel follows, including their old covenant, their old 10 commandments, their old Abrahamic, their old circumcision, their old 𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓, their old feasts of Israel, if you are using any of their old shadow teachings, like mother, like daughter, you wonder why there are people dying among you. You're the daughter of a bitch whore who couldn't stand her husband and children. That's the state of the Messianic Nazarene, Jewish and even Christian now, who follow all these systems, religious systems. Bitch whore who couldn't stand her husband and children. And you're a true sister of your sisters who couldn't stand their husbands and children either. Your mother was a Hittite, your father an Amorite, your older sister is Samaria. She lived to the north of you with her daughters. Your younger sister is Sodom, who lived to the south of you with her daughters. Haven't you lived just like they did? What happened to Sodom? What happened to the sister up north in Samaria? Gone to Assyria. What happened to Sodom? Destroyed. Haven't you engaged in outrageous, haven't you engaged in outrageous obscenities just like they did? In fact, it didn't take you long to catch up and pass them. Your sister Sodom and her daughters never even came close to what you and your daughters have done. Everybody raves about Sodom and Gomorrah, don't they? Oh, it's wicked. It's just like Sodom and Gomorrah today. They don't say it's just like Israel, do they? But look how Yahuah feels. Look how Elohim feels. Your sister Sodom and her daughters never even came close to what you and your daughters have done. The sins of your sinister sister Sodom was this: she lived with her daughters in the lap of luxury, proud, gluttonous and lazy. They ignored the oppressed and the poor. They put on airs and lived obscene lives. And you know what happened? I did away with them, wiped them out, fire and brimstone. And Samaria didn't sin half as much as you. We're talking about the 10 northern tribes here. You've committed far more obscenities than she ever did. Why you make your two sisters look good in comparison with what you've done. Face it, your sisters look mighty good compared to you, because you've outsinned them so completely. You've actually made them look righteous. Aren't you ashamed? No, you're going to have to live with it. What a reputation to carry into history, outsinning your two sisters, Sodom and Samaria. But I'm going to reverse their fortunes, the fortunes of Sodom and her daughters, and the fortunes of Samaria and her daughters. And get this, your fortunes right along with them. Still, you're going to have to live with your shame. And by facing and accepting your shame, you're going to provide some comfort to your sisters. If you come into the new covenant order, you're going to be able to do this and fulfill this. Your sister Sodom with her daughters and Samaria with her daughters will become what they were before, and you will become what you were before. Remember the days when you were putting on airs, acting so high and mighty, looking down on sister Sodom? That was before your evil ways were exposed, and now you're the butt of every joke. Can't say you can say anything about any nation, but not Jews, can you? They cry anti-Semitic, yeah. You get censored online as well. You're the butt of every joke. Nation of scorn, the source of contempt, hatred, despised by the Edomite women, the Philistine women, and everyone else around. But you have to face it to accept the shame of your obscene and vile life. Yahuah the Master says, I'll do to you just as you have done already. who have treated my oath with contempt and broken my covenant. All the same, I'll remember the covenant I made with you when you were young, and I'll raise it up again for you so that it will last forever. He's going to raise it up new. You'll remember your sorry past and be properly repentant when you receive back your sisters, both the older and the younger. I'll give them to you as daughters, but not as participants in your covenant. No, because your covenant is filthy. So all this is going to happen when Yahusha comes along and brings a new covenant, because all the Sodom and Samaria, Jews, Gentiles, everybody are going to come together and they're going to help one another. Only in this new covenant, though. He's not coming back in their old covenant. Not going to participate in your covenant. No thanks. I'm out of that. I'll firmly establish my covenant with you, and you'll know that I am Yahuah. You'll remember your past life and face the shame of it. But when I make atonement for you, how's he going to make atonement? Atonement involves blood. Elohim doesn't have blood. I guess he'll have to leave his throne and become a being with blood, flesh, bones, called Yahusha, our deliverer. You'll face it when I make atonement for you, make everything right after all you've done. It will leave you speechless. Leave you speechless what I'm going to do, he says. And how he's going to fulfill all this in a new and living way. Israel, Yisrael, whatever you want to say, is a national and spiritual whore still today, as well as all her daughters and those who follow her Hebrew roots mind. She's a whore still today, who Yahuah divorced from her abominations, cut all ties and covenants with her, and sent her into Assyrian and Babylonian captivity, never to return. All her customs, cultures, and shadow teachings are powerless to the world today, for only through Yahusha's new covenant order, which he said he's going to raise up. Only through him is there any fulfillment of Scripture regarding his forgiveness of her and returning to the covenant. He's not returning to the old covenant, returning to Elohim, who's got Yahusha, a new covenant, manifesting in the changed behavior of a human being, the new covenant promised land, within a new living temple, daily behaving the royal laws of love, knowing Yahusha Elohim through a new and living way, through a vein of deliverance. He is the narrow gate. Not many people are going to find it, because all these agents of Israel, all these agents of Israel, the preachers, teachers, pastors, rabbis, messianic nats from Hebrew roots, Yahuah only, all these agents of evil are pointing people back, and Yahusha's going forward. Knowing Yahusha through spirit and fire, that's what we're going to know. That's what all the Scripture culminates and points to, knowing Yahusha through a process, a baptism of spirit and fire. All other directions, especially going back into the old historic covenant, all other directions are death, misery, no peace, no joy, the zombified carcass worship of the walking dead religions today. Choose love today and run, brothers and sisters. That is the last time we're going to go into the Scriptures in such detail like this, because it's laborious. And as Victor said yesterday, the presentation of teachings and preachings and endless books, as Solomon said, is just endless, laborious. It's a drain, it's a burden. And I've had enough of it. I don't want to be like all the other buffheads taking you back to Old Covenant. We've had enough of Ezekiel. I'll come back shortly. I'll record it right now, actually. Our little summation of Ezekiel, and that will be it. 6 videos, and that's it for Ezekiel. All right. And if you want to dive into it yourself, read it yourself. Love you guys. Don't be a whore and don't follow Israel's example. Otherwise, you'll be divorced like her. You'll be unwise. You'll be unknowing. You won't know him. You'll be shut out. The door will be shut. Yahusha will come back. You'll be frackled up. Bye-bye.